wanted to ask you last time we met very briefly, a few weeks back, is how do you see a good family, a solid family? How does that come about in your background?
Families, I think it primarily families must have real, authentic relationships for it to thrive, for it to grow. I think it's important we have open and honest dialogue to nurture relationships as opposed to just getting by and.
But does that come on the foundation of your mom and dad and your brothers, whatever? How does that all gel together? Like, I grew up with only one parent, my mom, no brothers or sisters.
Well, in my case, I grew up primarily a Chinese run family, so very business oriented, not very expressive with emotions, and usually our topics are mostly business, so there are dysfunctionalities, no doubt, but and I think it's unique for each individual. But I think there are innate commonalities as human beings that come out, and I think it goes back to responsibility, living truthfully, nurturing the relationships, values, ensuring we orient ourselves on the proper way to live. And of course, we can't be too sure-sounding. Some can be quite self-righteous with how they live their lives, that it's also a form of control, a form of ego, which is ironic. So I think it's important that we're here for one another, and family being the cornerstone of how society works. And it's important to deviate from any form of toxicity, but that's hard given, again, the human nature of having predispositions towards evil, towards malevolence.
And there's so much outside influence.
Yeah, plus the evident evil that exists from media, from the shows we watch. Lust everywhere, like you see beautiful girls, you see booze, alcohol, vices. So I think it's important as humans, we know we're fallible beings, and yet we know better. We ought to do better, we ought to do good. And yet it's a constant warfare. It's an ongoing battle that's evident across our lifetime, that we fall and we can't be too sure, and anything can happen. Like someone can say, someone can condemn certain actions, and yet maybe a week later you do the same or you do worse. So we can't be so sure with our words at times. But we try and we move forward. So it's really a process. Like every day we fail, we tend to lie, or we tend to talk shit about someone, or tend to be selfish. And from that we learn and we progress, and we fall down and we get back. So I think that's really the story of humanity, and I think it's centralized on who Jesus was, and that's really my belief system, and that's my way of orienting, that we channel, or we try to emulate the teachings and the wisdom that Jesus imparted through Scripture. But honestly, I'm still quite aloof with Scripture, and you see even among Christians themselves, different denominations, different practices, and there's a lot of argument among themselves. So it's very hard to, of course, wrap your head around that, because religion in itself, there's so much division. So which is why I orient myself myself for a more personal relationship subjectively with God, with Christianity, and that's personal for me. But I imagine it's different for each one.
No, it isn't, because I look at, when I look back during the day or look at the morning, did I say something because the other person wanted to hear?
Yeah,
And
times
when I
within-
should have stepped back and said, no, you're wrong, and these are the reasons why you're wrong, reconsider. But no, sometimes we say, yeah, you got a good point, and we walk away from the subject
sometimes
matter.
we walk away from confrontation because we're politically correct. We don't want to cause that friction. But sometimes it is necessary to take on the friction for any leveling up to happen.
Yes.
Like, we can be nice, but we don't get anywhere, or I can really question you and confront you on your beliefs, and we can actually get somewhere. But at times people can be overly sensitive, so they might be be offended right away, so, and name calling starts, or it becomes petty. So these are the difficulties with relationships that we go through.
Well, relationships, you've got a strong foundation. The relationship will change. It will go for or against our way of beliefs and thinking. And if we're intelligent enough and honest enough, we can live with that, and we can learn from that.
Yeah. So I think it's a process. Every day is really
Very much
a learning curve, and it's a matter of learning, moving forward, filtering out what's not essential, trying to value what matters most in our lives, and hopefully have a relationship with our Creator, which is quite bleak at times for me personally. But I know there's something there, there's something higher, or there's something spiritually we ought to do. Like, if you're in a dark room, we're constantly searching for that doorknob, till we find the doorknob.
Yeah.
I think that's a good analogy, or a way of putting it.
I think as parents, in the family environment, and I look back, I haven't spent enough time in not arguing the sense, but telling the girls, because I adopted 2 little girls, Filipino backgrounds. Well, Filipino.
How many
backgrounds.
kids do you have?
4.
4.
Well, they're all grown up now.
2 adopted girls,
Yes,
Filipina.
plus my 2 boys.
2 boys.
Yeah.
With your wife.
Yeah, with Juris. So when I look back, when I first adopted the girls, it was a learning process for me for 10, 15 years. Every week we would sit round a round table, glass, and we put the box of tissues in the middle for the girls, and we would say what annoyed them, what didn't annoy them, or why was I annoyed? Because it was a new venture. It was a new venture of protecting these 2 girls, getting them street smart. With my boys, it's different. With boys, you can knock them around and say, you cannot do it this way because these are the consequences. Yeah. So that was a big thing, but I can't change it. Life's gone on. All I can do now is step back and say, hey, you know what? They've done well. They've done well for themselves. Not that they became the prime minister or the president. They've done well because, number one, they're trying to be honest all the time, and they're there to be helping people, which is important.
Okay.
Wow, you gave me some tough questions. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight.
Yeah, but sometimes I do contemplate, and which is also why I started this. I wanted to hear, of course, perspectives from people. So yeah, it was good having you on, and thank you for this conversation, and
Thank you.
hope to bump into you more in the future. So thank
I'm
you.
sure.
I think we discussed a lot today. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah.
And thank you for the magic water from Gateway.
Yes.
I had to get that in, you know.
Of course. Hope you purchase your next cars from us soon. Or
You never know.
Yes,
Show
yes.
guy.
yeah, we have many brands, so
Yeah.
a lot to choose from.
How many brands do you not have? Because when I look at this, I'm going, oh, geez.
Well, we don't have Toyota, Ford, Isuzu, Mazda.
Oh,
Well, when you talk about mainstream brands,
yes, yeah.
but the rest, yeah, we do carry.
But I suppose here, I mean, with the amount of brands that you are internationally well known as
Yeah,
well,
21
pricing is good.
renowned automotive brands. Of
Wow.
course, we do have that tagline, home of the best deals. So of course, we want to make sure we make
Yeah.
car ownership easy and attainable. So, because we're volume driven, we're aggressive, so we want, yeah, we want a lot of movement, a lot of action.
Exactly. And of course, another favorite of mine is BMW. But I have a couple of buddies back in Toronto. And when I go back, I always borrow their BMWs. So, yeah.
Yeah, we have our BMW dealerships, motorbike and cars. So,
Yes. Yeah.
but not very much a big market for that here. But it's there, it's stable. So we've had that for about over a decade now. So
Wow. But once again, I really thank you for your time
yes,
and for the invite. And I'm sure we can do this again.
yeah, we can of course schedule another episode
Yeah.
tackling
Yeah.
deeper
But
things. Maybe
I want to see the questions before you ask me them because they're tough.
Yeah, we'll see. We can reschedule a second episode perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen, thanks again.
Thank you. Thank
Pleasure.
you again. Pleasure.